Come on, Livingston. We gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, and score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We gotta go.
Hello and welcome back to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name is Angus and today I'm joined by Euan. Euan, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, mate. Good weekend all in. Obviously, Friday night under the lights at Kilmarnock, it was a very good away day and came away with the 3 points, and I had a good weekend as well. I was in Glasgow, went to see Kasabian on Saturday night. So, yeah, very good weekend all in. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, very much. Always much better when you come away with a victory on that Friday night. It kind of just sets you up perfectly to go and enjoy the rest of things that weekend. But yeah, very much the same. Very, very good all round, basically. But as always, you can find this episode as well as all of our others on your preferred podcast streaming sites. Just search for Talk Livi, so follow us or subscribe to ensure you don't miss another episode.
We'll kick the episode off by discussing the Classico and El Plastico as the Lions picked up all 3 points against Kilmarnock on Friday night.
We'll talk about Aberdeen taking the 8-hour trip to get to the Tony Macaroni tonight. The thoughts on the game.
And finally, the Lions travel to the capital to take on Hearts in our last game before the World Cup break.
The Lions made the trip to Ayrshire to take on Kilmarnock on Friday evening. Despite going behind twice, Livy fought back with goals from Bruce Anderson, a penalty from Sean Kelly, and an own goal to secure a big 3 points. Ewan, we both made the trip for this one. Pretty class, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very good. And one thing I'll say is, granted, there was only 200 of us in that big stand behind the goal. But for any of our fans that do travel to away games, let's bunch up a little bit more at away games because it does make the atmosphere a little bit better.
Much better.
It makes it that little bit better when you're all kind of close-knit together. I remember a game...
It was even just like infecting everybody though as well, because there's a guy who sits quite a wee bit. He sits to the side of me at home games, and he comes with his 2 children, and he was just singing the whole time. And him doing so, and like everybody gets joined in with that. And at home games it doesn't quite happen so much, but there it just kept on going and going and going, and into different songs. And it's more encouraging. It's more infectious, and just so much better all around.
Yeah, I was going to use an example a few years ago, the Championship playoff season, where we had a game down at Palmerston and they again pushed us all into one section, but it actually made the atmosphere so much better. And funnily enough, we won that game as well, 3-0. So yeah, I encourage fans to do that. But to actually talk about the game itself, it didn't look like it was going to be a very good evening from the get-go very, very early on. Joe Wright header, he's peeled off Newbley in the middle of the box, and it's, to put it bluntly, it's terrible defending. It's terrible defending from a set play, and it was the one thing I think the whole evening we were getting a bit worried about was when we were giving away free kicks in and around their 18-yard box, because I don't think we defended set plays particularly well the whole evening. And I'm sure that's something that the coaching staff will be working on. But yeah, the first goal, it's really poor for somebody to get a free header inside your 6-yard box. But we did respond fairly well. Obalai had a header up the other end, which he's put wide. Newbley's managed to work an opportunity off the left-hand side, which he's put well wide in the end. But we did see the change that fans have been crying out for, which was Bruce Anderson. And Anderson had a chance. Hemmings made a good save from it, but then his goal is absolutely sensational. First of all, we've won the ball high up the park. Jacko's made the challenge. Kelly's played that little reverse ball into Anderson, and it's a fantastic strike by Anderson. I actually thought, we're at the opposite end of the ground when he's hit it. I thought it was going to go just wide, but it's bent its way into that corner, and great way to get back in the game, and great for Bruce as well, because I'm sure there's a couple of reasons why Bruce was up for that game on Friday. One, he's got the opportunity in the starting 11, and then his old managers in the opposition dugout, and Derek McInnes as well, who didn't really give him a sniff at Aberdeen. So I'm sure he was wanting to prove a point to him as well at the same time. But we ended up going in at the break behind. Again, it's another set play, deep free kick, this time to the back post, and it's a looping header. Not good enough from our point of view for him to get that header in at the back post. And I think it was a constant theme in the first half. Our left-hand side seemed to be struggling a bit with Jacko, Fitzy in beside him at centre half, and then I think Stephen Kelly, as good as he was on the ball at times, I think maybe off the ball was getting dragged about. And the changes that Davy made in the second half, which was to bring Christian Montano on at left back and Omiyonga onto that left-hand side in place of Stephen Kelly, I think was game-changing. And a lot of credit has to be given to the gaffer for that, because those two made a proper impact on the game. And we did get the penalty. Comes from a Christian Montano cross. I was worried that it was going to get overturned by VAR and we were going to be stung for the third week on the bounce, because I did think there was a little bit of a nudge by Bahambula, which has then resulted in him heading the ball onto, I think it was Chris Stokes?
The boy who scored his own goal.
Yeah, he scored the own goal as well, so bad evening for him. But he has won the penalty, and Sean Kelly stepped up. Tell you what, big set of balls on him after missing that penalty at St Mirren as well, in the manner that he did, to go and step up again, and he confidently dispatched of it. And I think from then, we really got our tails up at that point, and we were starting to win. As I say, the change with Montano gave us a really good outball on that left-hand side, but I think Omiyonga was getting us pressing higher up the park along with Pittman at that point. And I think if anyone was going to go and win the game, it was us. And the third goal, the majority of the credit has to go to Bruce Anderson for it. I think he wins the ball back on two separate occasions in the build-up for that. But we've talked about it with Bruce. It's all well and good. Bruce will score us goals when he gets opportunities. But as a number 9 at Livingston, it's that side of the game you need as well. And Bruce did that fantastically. He won the ball back. Good little bit of play between him, Pittman and Montano to get him behind. It's a great little ball for Montano, and Chris Stokes just can't sort his feet out, and he's put it into the back of his own net. But we almost got a third. Omiyonga had an effort which was deflected just wide as well. But I think over the piece, I think we looked by far the more threatening team in open play. I think Kilmarnock, as I say, they caused us a lot of problems from set plays all evening, to be honest. As I say, I don't think we defended set plays particularly well, but to put it in perspective, Kilmarnock have only lost 2 games now in 12 at Rugby Park. The other game that they lost was to Celtic prior to Friday night. So it's not been a particularly easy place for teams to go, despite Kilmarnock's position in the league. So it's a very good result. It's also the first time that we've come from behind in the league this season to pick up any points. So it's good to see the players show that little bit of character to get back in the game, having been behind twice in the game, both early doors and then right on half time as well. So it was a really, really big result, because I think we've got 2 difficult games coming up against Aberdeen and Hearts. So it gives us that little bit of a cushion in terms of in behind the teams, or the teams in behind us, sorry. But going into the game against Aberdeen, we're 3 points behind them now. So it makes for a bit of a tasty one on Tuesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best way of giving yourself that momentum to go back into it, especially coming off the back of the performance against Celtic, where it was probably a wee bit kind of like doom and gloom. To kind of bounce back immediately is always a very positive sign, as you say, before 2 massive games. And yeah, Kilmarnock have been a very, very solid side this season, and I think that's what they're going to be for the most part. Looking at the kind of like the Twitter responses and that following the game, their fans are, they're quite bemused at the fact that, you always do see this where it's like people say like, oh, like teams like Livy shouldn't be coming and doing this and this, and I think in this kind of regard, I think they have somewhat of a point. I don't think a team like Kilmarnock, when they play Livingston at home, their only threat should be from set pieces and time wasting from from scoring 5 minutes into a game. I think that they would be expecting them to be a wee bit more positive, a wee bit more creative on the pitch rather than relying on set piece routines. You've now got Joe Wright and Ash Taylor are probably two of the top goal scorers for the club now because of that, and maybe that will help him. I mean, we've seen it in the past where having plenty of defenders can keep you up in this division when we had the likes of Gallagher, Halkett, and Lithgow. But yeah, I think considering like Derek McInnes, like his prowess as a manager, and I think you'd be expecting a little bit more. And I think that was what most people, particularly, I was quite surprised that they didn't really threaten too much in open play. I didn't really think that we felt any kind of massive pressure when it came to that. Completely different story when it came to set pieces. In all honesty, when that first one went in, it was a similar story to the only other time I've been to Rugby Park was when the first season we came up and they scored in a corner in the exact same end
Yeah.
from the exact same time, and I was like, great, here we go again. But yeah, as you said though, like absolutely tremendous credit to the team for battling away like they did, and that last goal as well. It's that kind of archetypal Livingston goal where you think that a play's dead or whatnot, but they just keep on harassing and harrying Anderson. No, credit to Sean Kelly at first as well,
Yeah.
who steps in, plays the ball through. Anderson, takes that great touch to put it into the corner. That then encourages likes of Pittman to come up, and when likes of like Pittman and that come up, we're probably going to end up getting a couple of toes to the ball. They're not going to play it completely around him, and then the play by Montano and Anderson as well is just absolutely tremendous, and yeah, it was fully deserved, and sent our away stand into jubilation, which was just like an absolutely tremendous away day, and I think that everybody there who was really enjoyed it. Hopefully we can see more of that in the future. I mean, we've got Hearts away on Saturday, the shortest trip that we'll be making all season. So hopefully, we can get something similar. We can, as you say, we can all bunch up and we can try and make the most of it.
Yeah, it was a fantastic away day, and it was a great atmosphere. Albeit there was only, I think, just under 200 Livingston fans, but we certainly made ourselves heard during the game. And the big talking point at the start of the game was, one, there was no Jason Holt in the middle of the park starting the game, but obviously the one that the fans have been clamouring for, which is Bruce Anderson back in the starting 11. I think there was maybe a slight tweak where Bahan Bulawan was playing as a number 10, but he did still drift into wide areas quite a lot. What did you make of the starting 11?
Yeah, it was decent. I think it just kind of shows, the squad depth that we have. Holt's probably one of my favourite players in the team, so maybe I would prefer to see him in that kind of area. I think somebody like him in that kind of first half would maybe settle us down a little bit. Maybe we'd get on the ball a little bit more. He offers that kind of defensive cover as well, as you're kind of talking about Stephen Kelly. But you're looking at that midfield now where we have an option of, like the two Kellys and Pittman isn't a terrible midfield to be having. You can bring on Holt and Domionga, and Shinnie as well, which is, absolutely tremendous, which is a Premier League midfield in its own as well. So, I think, with plenty of games kind of having been played already, a game on Tuesday, a game on Saturday again, I think it's, completely fine to, to be rotating the side. I wouldn't be surprised to see, a little bit of a shake-up again tonight for the game against Aberdeen. But yeah, completely kind of fine with that as well. The front three as well, I think, is what most fans have been most excited to see. Newbley, Anderson, Moyo. I think that's quite an exciting forward three that we'll have. Having the two, it's quite like a strange one. Having most teams you'll see it's like kind of like two smaller wingers with a big man in the middle. Whereas we're going to have two big wingers and the small number 9 through the middle, which is going to play for some exciting stuff. But as long as we work hard and create chances and whatnot, I'm confident that Newbley and Bahambula will create spaces, and Anderson, if he plays like that, he's just going to keep on reaching new heights. So yeah, very exciting, very hopeful, and hopefully more of that soon.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell the love for Brucey from the away end, both with his stunning goal that got us level in the first place, and then the reaction the fans gave him for the third goal. I think the fans appreciated that goal doesn't happen without his input in it, and it's great to see Bruce back in the side. And you saw his reaction when he got the goal. He was straight over to the bench as well with the coaching staff and the manager. So, anyone that thinks there's an issue behind the scenes, I don't think that's the case. I think Bruce is very much just wanting to get back playing, and that's what he did on Friday night. And as I say, he certainly ran it to Derek McInnes as well, who didn't give him an opportunity at Aberdeen, did he? But Bruce has now got another game, doesn't he, on Tuesday night if he's going to start the game that is against Aberdeen. And typically the games against Aberdeen, certainly at Livi, he's one he scored last season, start of the campaign last year, and then the game that we won, he was excellent in that game as well. So I'm sure Bruce doesn't need much motivation for the next one, but it was fantastic to see him back on the park from the get-go. And you saw what we've been missing with Bruce. He's just got a natural nose for goal, and he'll be a big plus point going forward for us.
Yeah, definitely so. And I think that's the thing, that we needed to be a little bit patient. Injuries happen, fitness concerns happen, and that we just had to let it ride out. And hopefully now we're going to see the rewards from it, having that fully fit Bruce Anderson yet again. Obviously, we could have done with him in certain games, but that's kind of out of our hands. Like, if he was fit to play and available to play, then he absolutely would be playing. Yeah, absolutely tremendous to see him back, and hopefully plenty more goals for us to all be celebrating about that. But yeah, you kind of talked about the likes of Omiyonga coming in, Christian Montano. Do you think that they two will both now start if they're fit? I think both of them had kind of recently just came back from injury. Would you be starting them both tonight?
If they are fully fit, then yes. I think Christian, he did look like he was limping a little bit at times on Friday night. I don't know if that's just off the back of maybe a challenge that he had or anything like that, but he obviously didn't start the game, did he? So Omiyonga, as I say, I thought he was game-changing on Friday night. I think he helped us press the ball higher up the park, and you know what you get with Omiyonga, don't you? He's just a little buzz bomb in the middle of the park. He's a little terrier going and winning the ball back for you. And against Aberdeen, who have been creating a lot of opportunities over the course of the season in terms of goal-scoring opportunities, that might be better to have guys like Omiyonga, Pittman, Holt, your stereotypical three in the middle of the park that are just going to chase and harass and win you the ball back in there to do that. Obviously, we'll talk about it a little bit more going into the chat about the Aberdeen game, but yeah, they certainly made an impact. But as I say, a lot of credit has to be given to the manager for noticing that tweak needed to be made. And as I say, it was pretty pivotal in us getting the 3 points on Friday night. But tell you what, I'd take Friday night football more often. What about you, Angus?
Yeah, it was good. It was very good. I think that we were kind of saying this as well, that maybe those games against like Hibs and Hearts, where it's like a wee bit closer, you could make like a proper night of it as well. Like, it would be very, very, very decent for us to do so. But not too much of an issue. I think it's like, to us logically, it seems like it should open up a new market, to televise a game on a Friday night or whatnot. You wish that Sky would maybe pick something up to put on one of them. I mean, we only had the two games on the Friday night, and only both of them had 5 goals in them. So what chance you got if they aren't going to try and televise like these kind of games, and that maybe that's when you're hoping that the TV deal would allow the likes of a BBC Sport or that to show maybe some Premiership football, and fans could be treated to a couple of spectacles. But yeah, all for it. Very good night out. Yeah, very pleasing. Would do again.
Yeah, it was definitely a very good evening on Friday night, and you can tell we're still buzzing off it, and we're recording this Tuesday, so we've still got a bit of buzz about it, but hopefully we can carry that buzz into the next game against Aberdeen, which we'll go on to talk about next. Aberdeen make that long 8 to 9 hour journey, as Angus mentioned earlier on, to West Lothian on Tuesday night, and what could be a pretty tough game for the Lions. Angus, how are you feeling ahead of this one?
Conflicted. Aberdeen have very much been a team of two sides this season. One being obviously the home side, and the second being the away side, where the home side's form has been, absolutely tremendous. Where they've picked up, quite a number of heavy wins. I think they beat us 5-0, beat Hibs 4-1. I think beat St Mirren 4-1 as well. You're looking at kind of results like that, and then like the away games, they've seen them be defeated, I think 4-0 off of like Dundee United, 4-1 off of Rangers when Rangers have been poor. So they're very, 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 very strange. At home, they seem to be, this incredibly attacking, free-flowing football side who, are putting teams to the sword at every opportunity. But then away from home, they seem to be, somewhat a lot different where, they're leaking goals and, they're not quite capitalising. So fingers crossed for us that this is going to happen again and, that we're going to get a little bit more joy as many other teams have done so this season so far. But because of that, it seems really strange that a team is, one or the other. There's not really much of an in-between in there. So surely that's going to click at some point, or surely that's going to, kind of become more cohesive at some point as well. But yeah, I'm not massively sure what to expect from them.
Yeah, Aberdeen are similar to ourselves. They've pretty much either won or lost this season. I think they've only had one draw as well, similar to ourselves. We had that draw at Ibrox. So you're either getting one or the other. there's no kind of middle ground in settling for a point with Aberdeen. But to touch on their away form, 7 games this season. I know they had a very poor away record last year, but to kind of stick to this season, they've won 2 from 7 and they've scored only 6 goals away from home, conceding 15. So they're averaging conceding 2 goals a game away from home. Now compare that to Pittodrie, where they've scored 21 and I think it's 6 home games. So as you say, it is a very stark difference in the Aberdeen that play at Pittodrie and the Aberdeen that travel on the road, and that's where you've maybe got a little bit of confidence coming into this one because of their away record being very, very patchy and unpredictable. Jim Goodwin's obviously got his touchline ban, so he won't be on the touchline. He'll be glad that he's not needing to go in the Astro pitch. I read his comments about it this morning, having a dig, and it should be abolished. Hopefully that's him just getting his excuses in early for another poor away showing. But Aberdeen, as we said, they are scoring a lot of goals this season. They are creating a lot of opportunities, but they're that team probably still in transition, which I think is probably where they can get away with this patchy form, being fantastic one week and then not so great the next. And certainly in the forward areas is where they invested a lot in the summer. Miovski, when we had the red tinted glasses guys on, when we had Glenn on earlier in the season, he spoke about Miovski. He obviously scored a couple against us up at Pittodrie, and the big thing he said, he's that type of striker that likes to play on the shoulder. And his second goal in that game where he peels off Kanka is a prime example of that, where he's been slipped in behind and he's used his pace to get in behind. So we need to be very wary of that. He's scored 10 so far this season as well. And the boy that's hit a good vein of form is the boy Duke as well, who I think's on loan from Benfica. Just shows you the stark contrast in resources, doesn't it, when they're pulling in guys from Benfica, and that's Aberdeen. So, but he's scored 5 goals, but he's hit a very good vein of form in the last few weeks. So they're a front two that we need to be very, very wary of. But if you look back to the last game against them at Pittodrie, yes, it was 5-0, but I think even listening to Jim Goodwin's comments after the game, it was never a 5-0 game. If you looked at that first 45 minutes or first 40 minutes prior to the sending off, we were very much the team in the ascendancy and looked like the only team that were going to go and score in that game. So we're more than capable of taking Aberdeen on and causing them a lot of problems this evening. And I'm glad that we managed to score a few goals on Friday night, because we've talked about it. We've been creating a lot of chances without taking them in recent weeks. So for us to go and get 3 in one game, I think will give the players a little bit of confidence as well. And as we mentioned, Aberdeen are shipping goals away from home. So I think we will get opportunities, and I think it will be quite an open game, to be honest, certainly from an Aberdeen perspective.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite an exciting match, because I don't think either side are going to look at the other and think that, they kind of have to sit back. I think that they will point out that there's weaknesses within them, and, they have the quality amongst their ranks that, they can cause either side damage. So it's one that I'm quite looking forward to. Obviously, it's pouring down of rain just now, so hopefully it kind of clears up a little bit here in Livingston. And
it'll make the Astro nice and wet for Jim. He can't complain about that, it being dry. There's a bonus right there.
That seems to be one of the things as well. Whenever there's like a thing with a manager, being like away from the touchline or something like that, that we kind of have that advantage, I guess. It never ever seems to kind of go like properly well for us, I guess. Like even when it's like new managers come here and that, I don't really like that. I think it adds like a bad element that we don't really always like kind of capitalize on. But hopefully I'm wrong with just that. But it'll be an interesting game. I think it's one that again, see how we're talking about the games like Friday night there that could be like shown as like to like showcase like the Scottish game. Like these ones are much better to show than in the likes of a Celtic versus Motherwell for the up team's time or that. I know obviously St Johnstone have just shocked Rangers there, but like how often does that happen in a season? These games are much better for showcasing the league as a whole. But yeah, one I'm excited for, and yeah, fingers crossed we'll come out with the 3 points.
What do you reckon then? If we need to go predictions, then Angus, what you going for?
Predictions. I've been sticking with the 1-0 for and like the kind of like the low kind of scores and that, but I'll go a little bit different. I'm going to go for 2-1 Livingston.
He's gone for it. He's gone for the win. I've been Mr. Positivity with the vast majority of predictions this season. I've probably lost out on points because I've tried to be too positive. Screw it. I'm going to go 2-1 as well. I'm going to go 2-1. And another big 3 points for the Lions, going level on points with Aberdeen as well, which would be a fantastic way to celebrate Tuesday night in another game under the lights at the Tony Mac on our beautiful, beautiful plastic surface, which I know the boys on red tinted glasses absolutely love as well. They love watching games on our beautiful, beautiful, lush green plastic surface.
I'm sure as it gets to winter, Aberdeen are definitely going to be like training and playing on grass at all times. I'm 1000% sure that's going to be the case.
See, they have a bit more money with their fancy new training facility and that. They probably get their nice grass pitches manicured with a pair of scissors.
Every morning.
We don't have that luxury at Livingston.
Slides.
But here's hoping we can get another 3 points on Tuesday night.
Next up, Livy make the short trip to Tynecastle to take on Hearts in our last game before the World Cup break. Euan, how are you feeling ahead of this one?
Normally, I find Tynecastle fairly daunting, and we've not won at Tynecastle since 2002. It would have been the game we finished. Well, we confirmed third spot in our first season in the top flight when we won 3-2 at Tynecastle. So yeah, it's been a fair while. We've picked up the odd draw here and there. Certainly, I remember Marvin Bartley's goal there, and I think our second season back up in the 0-0 where Liam Kelly saved a penalty as well. So it's not like we've gone there and not been competitive. But I feel last season, other than the cup tie at Tynecastle, I was really disappointed with us in the league games at Tynecastle. Don't think we laid a glove on them. But I think Hearts have been slightly different this season, and in terms of doing a little bit of looking at the stats for it, their games at Tynecastle seem to be fairly open, going by the number of goals scored in the games. And just looking at it there, they've won 4, lost 2 at Tynecastle. They've scored 15, but they've also conceded 14 at home. And I think that'll probably be a lot down to their defensive injuries that they've had since the start of the season. Certainly when Laurie came on the podcast, he mentioned that a lot. Obviously, they lost John Suter in the summer. Craig Halkett's been out injured. Kingsley was injured at the start of the season. He's been back in. Kai Rolls has been out, but I think he came back at the weekend. So they've had a lot of chopping and changing in their back 3 or 4, depending on how they go and play. So that's probably not helped with the defensive side of things for Hearts. But as I said, they're still scoring goals. They got 3 at the weekend there, and Lawrence Shanklin's banging form as well at the moment. I think he's got 9 goals domestically this season. So he's certainly an obvious one that we need to watch out for. But there's also Alan Forrest, who's been chipping in with the odd goal here and there. Andy Halliday's hit a very good vein of form in recent weeks. And there's also another ex-Livy man that we'll need to watch out for, who's been a bit of a creative spark in recent games, which is Mr. Robert Snodgrass. So certainly from dead balls, I think we need to be very wary of that, because his delivery is excellent and has been for a number of years. It's certainly something he's kind of managed to make a career out of, as he's warned of a left foot, Snoddy. So it'll be good to see him playing against us again, but I hope he doesn't have a particularly good afternoon. But no, I think it is a very difficult game. But again, I kind of talking about it with the Aberdeen game as well, I feel like we're going to get opportunities, and I think we will be able to cause Hearts problems and get chances at Tynecastle, but we're going to need to be ruthless in front of goal, and that's something that we haven't been a lot this season. We haven't shown that ruthless streak when we've created opportunities, albeit Friday night we did take chances when we got them, but that's the key thing, because I think Hearts will also create chances. I reckon there's goals in this game, and certainly going off the record at Tynecastle this season, there's been goals in every game this season at Tynecastle.
Yeah, again, it's an interesting one as well, because of Hearts' injury issues and that as well. We're not entirely sure of what team is going to be coming out. It may be a depleted squad, but it may end up with their luck that another couple of injuries happen tonight or tomorrow whenever they play Rangers, or they may have some returning bodies come Saturday as well. So they're quite a strange one, and I think Robin Nielsen deserves a little bit more credit than he's probably got this season so far for how he's got Hearts doing. I think Hearts are they sitting fourth at the moment?
Yeah, sitting fourth without having a good start to the season.
Yeah.
So
for fans to be moaning about how Hearts have been so far this season seems mental, when they've had 8 European games playing Thursday, Sunday for the most part, with a ridiculous amount of injuries that they've had as well. I think he deserves a lot more praise than he's getting. I think it's like very much understated in that kind of perspective. But we've talked about the relationship with Hearts fans and Nielsen before. It's quite a strange one, but yeah, it deserves massive credit for what they've done. But they've got plenty of threats there nonetheless. You look at the likes of Shankland. To be fair, most of his goals are seeming to come from the penalty spot. But they offer great threats from the likes of Forrest, Mackay, Snodgrass, even the kind of like the defenders going forward, like Atkinson, Kingsley, and that. So plenty of threats for us to watch all over the park. But hopefully we can get in and about them like we did in that last game that we played them. I think we stifled them pretty well. We defended our box incredibly well, and like Joel Newbley was able to cause them some problems. So fingers crossed that'll happen again.
Yeah, here's hoping. As I say, I think there's opportunities in it. Last season, when I spoke about Hearts, I thought they were and I still do think they're a very, very good side. I think they're when they do have their kind of full personnel available, they're a very well balanced side as well. I think Robbie Nielsen's created there, but as I say, because they've had those injuries this year, they've not been able to have that kind of set team. And as you say, for a team like Hearts, I can't remember the last time they played European football, but it was a number of years ago, the last time they were involved in group stage football. I think it goes back to when Robbie Nielsen was playing for Hearts, which I think tells you how long ago it was. So for them having to, as you say, compete Thursday, Sunday, almost consecutively, week on week, with a lot of injuries, it's been a difficult start for them. But I think now that the European campaign's over, I think they will be fine going forward for the remainder of the season. I think the World Cup break's probably coming at a good time for them as well, albeit I know I think they've had 3 players called up for the Australia squad, but it'll probably allow them to maybe get a few bodies back, and I think they'll be stronger going into the second half of the campaign. But certainly it's another tasty one, albeit as much as I'm saying I think we'll get opportunities at Tynecastle, just our record there, the fact we've not won there in 20 years, there's a bit of you that goes, it has to come to an end at some point, eh? And over the last few years since we've been in the top flight, Davy Martindale in particular has managed to end a few of these records gradually year on year. I think he ended a hoodoo at Rugby Park, a hoodoo at McDermott, a hoodoo at Pittodrie, a hoodoo at Easter Road. So he's ended a few of these. So why not? Why not? Last game before the World Cup break. What are you thinking, Angus?
I'm going to err on the side of caution. I'm going to go 1-1.
You're not getting as excited as I am.
I would want for nothing more, but yeah, I'll stick with a wee nice 1-1.
As I say, there's been goals. There's been goals at Tynecastle. I'm going 2-2. I'm going for 2-2.
So that excitement and that is just evaporated from yourself as well.
I know. I thought I convinced myself. I thought I turned myself there, and then I've just absolutely shat the bed. We'll put it bluntly, Angus. I've absolutely shat the bed, and I've gone for a 2-2. I've gone for a Desmond. I think it should be a pretty exciting game, but hopefully we can get a few bodies through to support the team. It'll be our last game for a good month, so it'd be good to see a decent, noisy away support at Tynecastle to cheer the team on. That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in, week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram.
As Euan said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, so search Talk Livi to find us and you'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
That's it for this week. Thanks to all our listeners for tuning in as always, and let's hope for another great week following the Lothian's finest football team.
West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Ambervale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Amberville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston.